Everyone is part of a bigger story. It's a bigger story than you can imagine. It's a big story about a really big God. Discover the story that shows you the character of God.
Hey friends, I'm Caleb. Let me introduce you to my Bible. Inside, you'll find 66 individual books that fit together to form God's one big story. Even before the world was created, God knew us and loved us. When people turned away, God never turned away from us. In fact, from the very beginning, God had a plan to restore us to relationship. And at the right time, God sent Jesus to live with us and to give up his life in our place. When we follow Jesus, we can live with God forever. That's an incredible display of kindness. And God invites us to share that kindness with those around us. I've got 4 stories right here to show us what that can look like. We're gonna get started in the book of Matthew. If we wanna know what God is like, the best thing we can do is get to know Jesus. Even though he's God's son, Jesus doesn't demand special treatment. Instead, Jesus spends his time with those who are outcasts or considered unimportant, people who are sick, those who have done wrong things, and even little kids. For a perfect snapshot of God's kindness, look at Jesus. Time to head back to the Old Testament and the book of Ruth. Though Ruth lives in the land of Moab, she marries a man from Judah. And long story short, the men of the family die, and Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, is left all alone. Now, Ruth could easily go back to her own family, but she chooses to stick with Naomi and make the long trek to Judah. And spoiler alert, because of her kindness, Ruth becomes the great, a lot of greats, grandmother of Jesus. Speaking of which, we head back to Matthew for our next story. In what's often called the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is teaching a crowd how God wants us to live. He tells them, suppose someone forces you to go 1 mile. Go 2 miles with them. See, at that time, a Roman soldier could make anyone carry their pack for 1 mile and no more. But Jesus flips the script. You can choose to go an extra mile because even in a tough situation, you always have the power to be kind. We wrap up in the book of Luke. One day, a law expert challenges Jesus about who really deserves kindness. Jewish law says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So the expert asks, who is my neighbor? As he often does, Jesus answers with a story. When a man is injured on a road trip, 2 good guys ignore him, but the bad guy chooses to lend a hand and be the true neighbor. Following Jesus means choosing to show everyone that they're valuable, from your family and friends to the kids others ignore. That's what true kindness looks like. And I can't wait to see how it shows up in you and me.